Howdy, folks. Happy Tuesday. We are getting a day closer to the NHL draft, and we'll talk a little draft and prospect stuff today. We are also going to talk about, a few other things, some injuries that happened, the revelation after the Stanley Cup final of how injured some players were. But I'll start off with the pre-show. And, if you ever need an example of, the saying, only stuff can happen to me, and if basically if you don't believe it, it's easy not to believe stuff that happens, but it's completely true. Well, that was me today. So I'm a type 2 diabetic, and I have to every 6 months go to the doctor's office and get blood work beforehand. It's the whole fasting blood sugar thing. So I usually go, early in the morning, get the blood work done so I can go out and eat, because I've been starving for 12 hours. So I'm driving to the blood work place, and all of a sudden I realize that I've lost, that I left without the prescription, the script. I left without what blood work I needed. So I had to do a 180, go back to my house, pick up the script, and I drive there, and I'm trying to get back there I get there at my allotted time. So I do. And I'm walking in, and it's like on the third floor. So me being, I'm old and lazy, so I'm going to take the elevator.
Oh my God.
Well, my knee hurts, Russ.
Oh.
So, well, this is the hook to the story, Russ. So you'll love this.
Okay.
So I press the button to the elevator, and my phone, it sort of vibrates when I get a direct message or something like that. And I got something from somebody. I'm not blaming them, but I was sort of distracted for a moment. I was going into my pocket and reaching in for my phone. And so I have my phone in my my right hand. I have the script in my left hand, and I look at my phone, and I drop the script. And I drop it just as the elevator door opens, and it floats down, goes completely flat like this, and goes right between the floor and the elevator and down the elevator shaft.
I thought it was going to be an LA Law thing, but it was. But for
no. But so I go up there, and of course they won't do the blood work without the script.
Right.
And I look on my patient portal, and they don't have it there. And my doctor's office is not open for a half an hour. And I had like 5 things to do in the morning, so I couldn't wait around for the doctor's office to answer the phone. By the way, it took them 45 minutes to answer the phone. I was on hold for 45 minutes, and their phone's open at 8 o'clock. So, let's just say it was a cluster F. And now tomorrow, tonight, I have to fast again because I have to do the blood work tomorrow.
Nice.
So, I can't wait.
It's a complete waste of time.
I could not make that up. The thing drops down the elevator shaft.
It's hard to believe that they wouldn't go to your patient portal.
Yeah, I get the same blood work every 6 months, but I guess I don't know why, but it doesn't make any sense.
That's brutal.
Yeah. So, all right, let's start the show. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Tuesday, June 28th, 2022.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Lagello, and this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. We'll save the Hall of Fame stuff until Ack gets here. He says it'll be a couple minutes. So just, a look back on the injuries, the variety of injuries that occurred during the Stanley Cup final. Joe Smith, who writes about the Lightning for The Athletic, he revealed Braden Point had a quad tear, which occurred in Game 7 against Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
So he was in and out of the lineup. Now, he didn't play against the Rangers, did he? I don't think he came back for the Rangers.
I don't think he played at all.
Yeah, he played in the final, but he was clearly, less than 100%. Pierre-Edouard Bellemare had a meniscus injury. So did Kucherov. Anthony Cirelli had an AC joint sprain, which was the reason why you saw Patrick Maroon helping him get his jersey on in between periods. Ryan McDonough had a mangled finger On the Colorado Avalanche side, Nikushkin they took pictures of it. He had a really bruised foot.
It was more than bruised. That was
it broken?
I think it may have been because they said they had to doctors had to get on the skate.
Oh, okay.
You couldn't just put the skate on.
Okay, and obviously Burakovsky and Kadri had broken thumbs. So, I mean, let's just say, I don't know how these guys play through this stuff. It's, you hear in baseball or basketball or in football that, players play through injuries, but
they certainly would walk up 3 flights of stairs. I can tell you that.
Yes, but with my old knees, Russ, I don't care. So what?
But no, I give him credit. I knew McDonough had some sort of injury. The thing is, it's harder now because if guys don't come out and interview, we don't get in the locker room. We really don't get to see anything. And so that's the difficult part here. They could hide more from the media.
Yeah. So we know that the Stanley Cup is going to be going to various spots over the summer. It was revealed, and I don't know if it's changed, that it will not be going to Russia. So if Kucherov had won, if Sergachev, Kucherov, Vasilevsky, it would not have gone home with them. I from top of my head, I'm pretty sure Nikushkin is the only Russian on the Avs.
Yeah.
So he's, he'll get his day with the cup here rather than, or wherever he's going to sign. If it isn't Colorado, it could be someplace else. But yeah, so that's sort of close.
Think he's going to bring it to a city that he signs a contract with? No.
He's probably going to bring it to Colorado. He's been there for a couple of years, but and I would assume Nikushkin is going to. Yeah, we know Nikushkin's from Russia, Alexander. I would assume Nikushkin is going to re-sign with the Avs. We know.
I think so.
We know Kadri's gone. Unless he's prepared to take much less money on a long-term deal. But I don't think they're going to take care of business first and foremost. They're going to take care of McKinnon first. And McKinnon's got a year left after this year. And I would not be surprised that if McKinnon's name is the first name that we hear. Remember at July 13th, they can sign him to the extension. I'm just checking on Cap Central to make sure. He's got 1 year left at $6.3 million, and then he will get paid. And I would assume McKinnon's probably going to get in the 10 and a half, 11 range, which I think he deserves.
Yep.
But then, if they're paying him that, and there's a year lag, maybe they can spend it on a 1 year deal. See, Russ, I think they're going to be like Chicago was after one of those cups, where they may go out and sign players who want to try to have a chance at winning the cup, and on a 1 year deal, because they'll have that gap in between what McKinnon's making now and what McKinnon's making after, and that could be a $4 or $5 million gap. So they might go out and sign somebody on a 1 year deal.
They might just graduate some of their guys, like Martin Kaut had a nice year. Maybe he comes up. They could try and do some of that too. So we'll see.
Yeah. I've been writing some columns on Full Press for buyout candidates. Now the buyout window starts on July 1st, and it's going to be weird, but I think there's a chance that this happens. Eric Johnson's got a year left in his contract. He's a long time Avalanche. He's been there over, I think it's 11 or 12 years.
Yep.
He's got $6 million one more year. He's not a $6 million player anymore. Maybe he retires, but a player.
He said he was going to retire last year. I think he's coming back on a 1 year deal.
Well, the thing is, he's got 1 year right now.
Oh, then I think that's just going to remain. I don't think he's going to do anything.
Well, they might buy him out, is what I'm saying.
No, I don't think they'll buy him out.
Well, the money is tight for them, so maybe they can do something like Brooks Orpik, where they trade him and the other team buys him out, they re-sign him.
Maybe they'll do that.
Yeah,
but I don't think they're going to actively try and get rid of him. Yeah,
they don't have a ton of cap space to sign the guys that, they do relatively, but that a sizable chunk of that money is going to go to McKinnon. So
McKinnon might take a straight 10. He might.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, as for Tampa, we know that the Palat situation sort of hangs over them. I was looking at their record on Cap Friendly, and right now they're over the cap.
Mm-hmm.
And that's with only 39 contracts. They're $1 million, almost $2 million over the cap, and that's the Palat, Ruta, Riley Nash, Nick Paul, they're all UFAs. So they do have a lot of guys under contract, NHL guys, but they have no wiggle room. So, the question is, who do they move to create that space? And right now, the most logical move would be Killorn, because he's only got 1 year left in his contract at $4.45 million. If they trade him, which they could, and I'm sure there'd be interested parties, then they could use that money to re-sign Palat. So that's
the way it goes. I mean, again, we don't know how Palat's going to view things. If Palat says he's going to test the market, then they don't have to do that with Killorn. Like, we don't know.
Yeah. Now, while we're waiting for Eck to get here, let's talk a little draft, because the draft will be a week from Thursday in Montreal, and Russ and I and Anthony are all going and anxiously looking forward to that. There's a lot of, normally the first overall pick is sort of a fait accompli. And we believe, at least, I believe, based on everything that I've read, based on what Russ has talked about, and Shane Malloy has talked about, and other people who are projecting the first round it's pretty unified that Shane Wright would be the number one pick. But there is, going back to the combine, Russ, there was some chatter about Slavkovsky and Logan Cooley. And I don't know if this is the same BS that we've heard year after year, like Laine was going to be picked ahead of Matthews, and we all knew it was bullshit. But what are your thoughts on this stuff?
Well, it's not BS in the sense that, like, for McKenzie's thing, he polls scouts, and there was like 5 out of 10 scouts that he said put Slavkovsky 1, and that's fine. My answer on SiriusXM a minute ago was none of them are making the pick. None of them are in charge of making the pick. This is Jeff Gordon and Ken Hughes. They need to make a pick that sticks, and if they make a pick like this that starts off their regime and something goes wrong, or it's iffy, or somebody after Slavkovsky, like Shane Wright, becomes a superstar, then they're under the gun already in a brand new market, right? So I think they're going to pick Shane Wright because the center position is smart to do it at. You have Suzuki, but you don't really know if he's a 1 or 2, and you're not sure if Wright's a 1 or 2. Let them figure it out. But to be strong like that up the middle is never going to hurt you. I don't think Montreal believes Slavkovsky is a center, although I think there are some teams that might think they can make him a center. We've seen how hard it is to be a center. Like, how many years did it take for Tage Thompson? Pierre-Luc Dubois became a center, and then he didn't want to be a center anymore, right? I mean, he stopped being a center. So, again, I don't think the odds of him being a center are great. And based on that, even if you want to say he's better offensively than Shane Wright, I'll tell you Shane Wright is better in all facets of the game compared to Slavkovsky. Now, yes, he's a big guy, and I get it. We're going to see a lot of height bias in this draft, and we're going to see a lot of heavy guys go sooner than we may expect, and we might see some smaller guys drop again. But in the end, those two guys have to make a pick that lasts a while with the fan base. And again, I don't think that's going with Slavkovsky, because while Slavkovsky is a really good player and you could get him, either to the AHL or the NHL right away, they're going to probably do the same thing with Shane Wright. Don't get me wrong. But either way, I think the fan base would look at Wright like, okay, we're a building team. He is going to grow with our team. We're good with that. Where, you bring in Slavkovsky and it's kind of like, okay, well, now we got a guy, he's a power forward, great. Power forwards still take time. Like, he's not a finished product in the NHL. You could see even Tim Stützle is not yet a finished product in the NHL.
Right. He took a step back last year a little bit, at least for a while. Well, and this is the thing. I mean, in a way, Montreal winning the lottery limited their options because now they're sort of pigeonholed into taking Wright, and if they're not sold on Wright, then I mean they can't really.
I think they're sold on him, Mike. I think some scouts aren't, which is fine, and
they can't really trade out of one because the draft is in Montreal. They'll be excoriated.
Right. Yeah, even if another team wants to take Slafkovsky, it's not worth it to make that trade because, yes, you lose the glitz and glamour of having that first overall pick. It means something to the franchise. It means something to the fans. So I do think they're locked into that. And then as far as actually going against Shane Wright, I just think, you're setting yourself up for something that could be worse. And that's not saying Slafkovsky is going to be bad, but if Slafkovsky takes a little time like a lot of power forwards do, then they're going to have a lot of pressure on him, a lot. So I don't see Montreal going out here and making any kind of Hail Mary pick. I just think some scouts, and and I said it on Sirius XM, I am sure there's some teams that would take Slafkovsky first, but guess what? They're not picking first.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. There's been other years that number one picks aren't unanimous, but you don't really care because they didn't go number one because those teams didn't have a pick at number one.
Yeah, dead on true. Sorry for being late, guys. I have had all kinds of technical issues today, so I'm back in my original office as we're redoing everything in the house. So I'm just trying to get everything back together.
Well, we held off talking about the Hall of Fame until.
Yeah, let's get into that. I mean, obviously the Sedins is a no-brainer. I think that's what everybody.
That's a no-brainer. I mean,
that was like a definite.
Henrik is better, but you couldn't leave one without the other.
No.
Yeah, I guess
they get
not.
drafted together. They make all.
He is better. Wait, are we going to argue that Daniel is better than Henrik? I don't think you can make the argument.
No.
Okay.
No, but like you said, I mean, and do you really do they have to do everything together? I guess so. I guess that's the case, right?
So far they have, actually.
So far they have, exactly.
No, I won't ask.
So here they are. But yeah, those two, not a huge surprise there.
Well, I have a problem with one of them. I really.
Okay,
do.
Which one do you have a problem with?
Alfredson. He does not belong in the Hall.
Yeah, I thought you'd have a problem.
I disagree with that. I think he belongs in the Hall. I think the issue is who's waiting and who else went in. And I had more of a problem with Luongo than I did with Alfredson. Because, again, I think Luongo had a few things going for him. Canadian, played for a Canadian team, won 2 Olympic gold medals for Canada.
No question.
Which
Alfredson, similar things going for him, as far as international play goes.
But he also played for a Canadian franchise for a long time, right?
He did, and is legendary, and that just is a phenomenal community person and all that stuff. Not that matters in hockey; it shouldn't matter in hockey.
No, he's a really good player. He was an all-star most years.
Yeah,
he made it to the Stanley Cup. He was the leader of that team at the Stanley Cup. I don't have a problem with that. My issue is this: if I'm going to go with Luongo and pretend that he doesn't have a lot of shootout wins, or pretend that he was once looked at as the best goalie in the league, which I don't think he ever was.
Yeah,
I would like to say, if you were in a Game 7, would you take Mike Richter or Roberto Luongo as your goalie?
Richter.
Yeah, that's kind of the issue, right? And
everybody's going to say Richter. You're going to find very few.
See, I'm of the mindset that both deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, but I think that Richter is definitely should be in there before Luongo is.
Right, that's what I believe.
But I do think Luongo is a Hall of Famer. I don't have any problem with that at all.
There are about a list of 3 or 4 goaltenders that I would put in before Luongo. I mean, Richter's one of them. And Lauren Shabbat, which is an old time goalie.
He's gone. Unfortunately, nobody cares anymore.
Nobody cares, right? If he hasn't made it by now, he's never going to make it. But that's bull crap.
Right.
I continue to say Curtis Joseph deserves to be in. I don't know. I know the reasons why Tom Barrasso is not in, but because of
his nickname.
Yeah, right. And that's reflective of his personality, but that shouldn't, it should be what his merits were on the ice and not his personality. You could make a case for guys like Mike Vernon and Chris Osgood because of the cups that they won. But, Luongo, he's the compiler goalie. He's the goalie who played, 20 some odd years. Yes, he did win Olympic gold medals, but he never got his team to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals once. Never won anything in the NHL. So I have a problem. But the reason I have a problem with Alfredsson is, a guy like Alex McGillney has more goals, has more cups.
McGillney should be in.
I don't understand
McGillney should be in before Alfredsson. Alfredsson belongs in the Weasel Hall of Fame more than he belongs in the Hockey Hall of Fame. But eventually he's going to.
Why do you say that, Mike?
Because he was a dirty player. Because he was a weasel.
But there's, that's not.
There's a lot of dirty players.
Yeah, he was also an incredibly skilled player. So like,
Tim Thomas, no, Paul. Tim Thomas was a blip. But just a random Canuck used the rhyme of what Barasso's name is, and that's his nickname.
Right.
So Dino Ciccarelli took forever.
Dino, if you go look it up, he got arrested for something, or at least in trouble for something.
Yeah, he got arrested for taking a baseball swing at Luke Richardson's head.
No. This was like
I know that. Yes.
See, I don't see how Curtis Joseph would get in before Luongo.
They're both compilers, Zach.
Yeah, but Luongo.
I'll tell you this:
so many more achievements than Curtis Joseph has.
So many more? I don't know about so many more.
What are you talking about? Oh, Curtis Joseph has 1 gold medal. For Luongo has 2.
Okay, he's got 2 versus 1.
Didn't Brodeur relieve Luongo in one of those?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
No. It was the other way around, I think.
Luongo relieved Brodeur in 2010.
Yeah.
That's right, when he was older. Yeah.
And Carey Price relieved Luongo in 2014. I'm pretty sure it was that.
Right.
So it's not like Luongo even won both of them, but on his own.
Right. And Cujo was relieved by Brodeur in 2002. So he won his gold medal as the backup. I'm just saying they both did the same thing. And Cujo's his years with St. Louis when he had a good level playoff success. Edmonton, that Edmonton team that he was on had no business advancing past the first round. And in Toronto, he got them to 2 conference finals. So, his record in terms of playoffs is just as impressive as Luongo.
I had 2 more beefs. And again, the Hockey Hall of Fame is really just the list comes out just to annoy us, all of us. Just so we could kill each other and talk about who should be in rather than who's getting in. I think they get a few right every year, and then we argue about the rest. But like Herb Carnegie, he's been dead for 10 years actually. I've heard him talked about for the last 25 years between Willie O'Ree and other historians. He should have gotten in before this. Like, it shouldn't have taken this long. And honestly, you have 2 women you could put in every year, and you only put in 1. And you could have had, I think Jen Botterill or Megan
Botterill, Cassie Campbell, Pascal. What the hell are you thinking?
And they only put in 1. Again, imagine if they only put in 1 man in the Hall of Fame. It was okay. We can only put in 1 man, 1 woman this year. That's it. Imagine if it was that, what the argument would be. But the fact that you could do slot for 2 and only 1 made it makes no sense in this world for me.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And unfortunately, the Finnish player who won, they couldn't get a hold of her yesterday, so she wasn't even on the call.
No, okay. I just needed to look this up just to compare here. Roberto Luongo had 489 wins, 392 losses, a career 919 save percentage, 2.52 career goals against, with let's see how many shutouts. 77 shutouts, and his playoff record was under 500, 34-35. Okay, Cujo had 454 victories in less years, a slightly lower save percentage and goals against, 906 save percentage, but had 63 victories in the playoffs, better goals against, better save percentage.
Yeah, Luongo's playoffs are not great.
Yeah, well, he also didn't play with the teams like Joseph played with, some really good Toronto teams, a really good Edmonton team. He wasn't good in Edmonton, but he played with Edmonton. He played also with
it was someone like Rogie Vachon, but he got in.
He was great in St. Louis. Obviously Cujo was great. To me, Yeah, I mean, Luongo, Florida, for a very long time was
Yeah, he never made the playoffs in Florida.
not a good team, and it wasn't a good team, and he was the best part of it, and was by far the thing that kept them somewhat competitive. And in Vancouver, towards the end of his career, for sure, but definitely
until they wanted to dump him for salary reasons.
Yeah, I think that Joseph probably had a better single season, back in like 92, 93. Joseph had a great single season for sure. Luongo's single season, best single season as far as I can tell, is like 03, 04. But Joseph was up and down. Joseph was inconsistent all over the place. Like he had a really great year, really bad year in Edmonton, good back in Toronto, then bad again in Toronto.
You look at Luongo's GSA in the playoffs, and it was good like once. Richter had really solid one like 3 times.
Oh yeah, well Richter's above both these guys by a lot. I mean that in my book he is, at least. I mean, I guess not a lot. I mean the 2 gold medals.
He certainly should be past them, and there's something going on where he can't get in, but Luongo gets in on first ballot. Really? Okay.
Yeah.
There's something going on here. It's like, I mean, I don't get it. I don't understand why. Is Richter being blackballed for some reason?
I don't think so. I kind of wonder who's on this panel and who really, if you go up to them, says, yeah, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. And I'm thinking, why? Were you rooting for Canada in the World Cup? Like, why don't you think he's a Hall of Famer?
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
if you think about it, and I feel confident about this, that's one of the 3 greatest upsets in hockey history for any kind of tournament or anything that's ever happened.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, and he was 100. I mean, and the importance.
He was 100% the reason. You go ask Eric Lindros about that, and he'll tell you.
I mean, 100% the reason that the U.S. wins that, and then also along the lines of the fact that it's such an important tournament for the U.S. to win in their in hockey as far as USA hockey goes. Way more important as far as hockey goes than the Luongo's wins in Canada in the Olympics. But that's nothing against. I mean, Luongo is 4th all-time wins. For goalies, that's impressive. He's like you said, Mike. He's passed Joseph, who's played it. I mean, they both played a ton of games. I mean, they both played a ton of years. They're both were.
They're both compilers, no doubt.
Yeah, they both played a ton of years. But to me, like they're not. I mean, I feel as if Luongo has a little more superstar cred than Joseph does, but it's close. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and rip Curtis Joseph. Really, Joseph has gotten probably screwed as well. But the honesty is, I mean, Richter just can't.
I mean, I agree. I think Richter should be in. I think you can make a case for the other goalies that we've mentioned, Vernon or Osgood or Barrasso. I understand. Again, I understand the reasons why people, Vernon won 2 Stanley Cups, Osgood won 2 Stanley Cups, Barrasso won 2 Stanley Cups, and none of them are in.
See, here's the problem. Like Randy goes, well, Kiprusoff's better than all of them. He's not.
No, he's not.
If I put Kiprusoff in, then I'm probably going to put Jaguar in ahead of Kiprusoff.
Yeah,
he's going to accomplish more.
Yeah, and Jaguar won a cup. And he was Conn Smythe Trophy winner when he lost the cup in 7 games. So you could make more of a case for Jaguar. Exactly. I don't think his career numbers match up to that.
No.
I do think for sure, like someone in the chat room brings up, does this mean if Marc-Andre Fleury gets in his first ballot? And he definitely does.
He will. No,
Marc-Andre Fleury's no one's going to argue that one.
No, what about Corey Crawford? He's got 2 Stanley Cups.
No.
I know. I mean, but
Hall of Famer.
Jonathan Quick is going.
Jonathan Quick for sure.
Quick will get in,
just because of what he has to do with USA, and also I think that I felt like Quick was more the reason that they won those Stanley Cups than Crawford was.
Sure.
Crawford was good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he was definitely good, and unfortunately,
he's gonna slot into that Osgood Vernon category.
Hall of Fame's hard on goalies. It's really hard on goalies. It just all these guys are, if you have to do more than win like a couple Stanley Cups, and you have to do more than win a couple Vezina trophies. It's bizarre. It's like if a guy wins a couple Stanley Cups, if an out player wins a couple Stanley Cups and wins an MVP or whatever, well, he's in. But yet with the goalies, it's not the same.
Sorry, I think Vasilevsky, his career ended today, if he said, I'm retiring, he's in the Hall of Fame.
No question. No question. And again, it also comes to being, are you the best goalie in your era is, something that also plays into it, right? And that's what with Vasilevsky, that's a no-brainer.
Stop it, Randy.
I wanted to get into because now that Colorado's off season has officially hit upon us. We have a couple more players to add to the rumor chart, and I added the 6 Avalanche players that I have on the chart, and there's more than that. The Avalanche there aren't a lot of Avalanche players signed coming up, and it's going to be an really interesting twist on everything. This is both Kevin and I wrote like coinciding stories today about the Avalanche and how Sakic's what he should do and if he can do it. So let's go through some of the Avalanche's issues here. Okay. I also added Paul from Tampa on there too, so you can check that out too, Nick Paul. And I have updated some things, and I also have a trade rumor that I heard today involving Maple Leafs, which we'll get to at the end. Okay. So there's a teaser for you. All right, so Nazem Kadri. We'll start with Nazem Kadri. Obviously, MVP-ish type numbers in the beginning of the year. He started off really, really, really good. He was great for this team when McKinnon was out of the lineup. He was just killer with McKinnon out of the lineup. He showed what he could do. But everything has to be put into context here that McKinnon, they're going to start negotiating with McKinnon in July too. Like he's got 1 year left on his contract, right? But that's got to be taken into account that McKinnon is the cheapest, the best deal ever right now. It's not going to be anymore. Like
I mean, Nazem Kadri is gone. There is no way he's re-signing in Colorado because they can't afford him for everything you just said. I mean,
I don't think he's going to be there either.
The question is how
the only way he stays, and someone brought this up to me, and I don't see. I think it would be a dumb move on his part. Would be if he were to sign a 1 year deal.
No way.
But that would be a stupid move on his part.
He's not going to do that.
His value is so high, you could sign a big 1 year deal if he wanted to, and perhaps like try to bank on that and even go bigger next year. Because the only reason that some players you're gonna see some shorter deals now is because the salary cap is going up in the near future. So you're gonna see. I think you will see some shorter deals than you would expect.
I think on guys that know that they can bet on themselves. But if you're 31 years old, you're probably not doing that.
Yeah.
Now, if you could, and we've seen this before. We've seen deals that are actually 6 year deals masqueraded as 8 year deals. You could see, I'm not saying Kadri's going to do this because I don't think Colorado is going to be willing to sign him to an 8 year deal.
Yeah.
But if they signed him to an 8 year deal that like averages $6 million,
right?
In the first 6 years he's making 7 or 8, then maybe that makes sense. But I don't see him doing that. Now, like I said, he's not coming back there. Russ and I, when we've all talked about this, Alex Newhook probably fits in and moves into the number 2 center role.
Yeah.
Or Comfer moves up into this number 2 center role, and Newhook takes the third line center role.
Way.
But Kadri is going to get overpaid dramatically. And I'm not saying because he's not worth it, but as in free agency, he's a great number 2. He's a lousy number 1. And
he's a great number 1 this year for
yes, but actually it was with Landeskog and Rantanen,
right?
For sure.
So
no question about it, but that he did show he could be a number 1 if he plays with number 1 talent.
Oh, right, but if you have superstar talent on both wings, and wherever he's going,
not everybody can do that.
Most teams who have that can't afford to spend $8 million.
Right. No, I don't disagree with any of
right.
that.
So I don't
disagree with anything you're saying. I'm just bringing it up.
Yeah.
And we're not looking at the chart right now, so I don't know who you have up there in terms of.
Well, I will tell you. I will bring I won't bring the chart up yet, but I will bring the chart up a little bit. Right now, there are 4 teams I've heard that have interest, and that's early. And so, like I said, this has just started.
Right.
So, and those 4 teams are the Bruins, which I think has been wildly reported out there already.
Right, but that's mitigated by the fact that Bergeron's coming back, and if Bergeron's coming back, then they may not have the room to sign Kadri.
It seems like they do, according to somebody I talked to. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means Krejci's. Krejci's another one. We don't know whether he's coming back or not.
And if he is, it's probably only on a 1 year deal anyway. So why would you?
Yeah. The Kings are interested in Kadri. I think that's a good fit for him.
Well,
in a lot of ways.
I don't know because you're spending $10 million on Kopitar, and Deneau had a fantastic year as a number 2 checking center. So I think there are better fits out there than the Kings, but they do have the money.
Yeah, I mean, then you're making Byfield your 3. Kupari's not a 4, so then you're trading them. Like, they have a lot of centers. I don't know.
You have a lot of centers, no question about it. The Montreal Canadiens are another team that has interesting cadre. From what I've been told, they are going to be way more aggressive than people expect. With what they signed, they are not looking at this like you guys were saying yesterday with their windows, painted shut, or not. They're looking for window shopping still. They aren't looking at it that way.
Yeah, I'm sure. Maybe you're right, but he doesn't seem like a fit there for me.
Yeah,
I know that he was a Habs fan. His dad is a Habs fan.
Yeah,
but that organization right now, especially with the fact that they've got bad contracts on the books in Anderson, in Gallagher, in other players, in Petrie, unless Carey Price is going on LTIR and is never playing again, I don't think that they want to add more. And add a 31 going on 32-year-old guy when you have when right now you've got your number 1 center Suzuki, your number 2 center is going to be Shane Wright. Yeah. Why would you go out and sign Kadri? I don't buy it. I really don't.
Yeah. And the other team, San Jose Sharks, I'm interested in Kadri.
I think there are 2 teams that have been left out here.
Go ahead.
One's the Philadelphia Flyers, and the other one is the Washington Capitals. The Washington Capitals, because Backstrom is going to be on LTIR probably at least next year and maybe the rest of his career. And Philadelphia, I'm convinced that, based on what we've talked about on the show and how they're not going to rebuild, they're not, they're going to do something what I can perceive as dumb and go out and spend big money on a guy like Kadri, probably spend like $8
They are going to make a splash with somebody, and it could be Kadri.
I don't think it would be Kadri. I think they would sooner bring Giroux back than get Kadri. I really do.
Yeah, but Giroux doesn't want to come back. I think Giroux wants to stay in Florida.
I don't know about. No, I don't think that's a definite at all. Like, I mean, I don't know who's saying that or whatever, but
I don't think anybody's saying it. I'm just telling you.
I know
like he likes it.
I know him pretty well, and I know the Flyers.
I see a lot of pictures on Instagram, and he seems very liking that.
Oh, he absolutely loves it there. And Florida brought him there to keep him there. So, I mean, I'm not saying that won't happen, but I think that if the Flyers match the offer in Florida, he comes back to Philly.
I just don't see him. I don't think he's coming back, and I don't see him because again, the team's not any good. Why would he come back and hit his head against the wall again where he could join Florida, who's very close? The Flyers aren't close to anything.
I know he is a very much of a homebody, like local guy who.
He could go to Ottawa. He's got a house there.
No, but his family.
That's the one team. That's the one play. That's the one player that the spending money on for Ottawa makes total sense because he's from that area. But
he's also got a family and kids, and he's got a wife and her parents. So there's all different sorts of things that play into this. This is a lot more. He's a lot more like I said before, Patrick Marleau than anyone else. And if you remember, Patrick Marleau did extreme things to stay in San Jose, even when San Jose wasn't very good. So I mean, the reality is that you could. I'm not going to. I mean, I do think that Florida is going to go all out to try to keep him, but it's going to be hard for Florida to keep him.
Esmir, I'm looking at the Islanders cap space, and I don't know how they would pull off a Kadri move.
Yeah. I mean, they would they would. Of course, anybody would like him, but they're not gonna fit him in.
They have $12 million in cap space. They have Noah Dobson to sign. That's going to be expensive because Noah Dobson had a fantastic 51-point season. They're 1 year away from unrestricted free agency on Mayfield. If I was Lou Lamoriello, I would buy out Kyle Palmieri because that contract was stupid from the word go. But Lou won't do that.
He won't do that.
So they don't really have the room unless they trade out, from somebody like Josh Bailey or Brock Nelson to clear the space. And I don't think they'll do that either.
Yeah, I haven't. I mean, I've done a lot of work on the Islanders, and I've heard of different people they're interested in, but I have not heard anything about Kadri. Going next to Kushkin. Now, this is again, like Kadri, stock super high.
Yep.
Wildly inconsistent player, but who's shown that when he's playing in the contract year, really picked it up, and does fit incredibly well.
He was good the last 2 years. Last year was good too.
Last year was good too. Yeah. He is. I'm told that he's the number one priority as far as these guys go, as far as all 6 of these guys go that we're going to talk about. He's the one that Sakic wants the most.
Right.
but how much? How much did you go in on a guy like this? Is really tough. Again,
Well,
another.
I think like 5.5. That's it.
He's 27 years old, so
Yeah.
giving him a 7-year deal is not out of the realm of possibility. I would give him the Josh Anderson contract, 7 years, $5.5 million.
Yep, that's what I would give him.
No, that sounds about right. There's another guy that Montreal has eyes on, and I was told very, very, very clearly from a really good source, one of Marty St. Louis' favorite players is Val Nichushkin. So whether or not that gets anywhere with that, who knows? I mean, Marty St. Louis has a little bit of clout right now. He's got definitely has made an impact, is beloved and right now, and he loves Nichushkin apparently. So for what it's worth, we'll see what happens there. Next would be Andre Burakovsky.
I think he's gone. I don't think they can, because he's
gone too.
Yeah. Even though he's put up good he's put up good offensive years, and that's the reason why he's gone, because they simply think they can't afford him. He had 61 points this year.
Yeah.
He had 19 goals in 53 games last year. So he's basically a consistent 20-goal scorer.
What I was told is if any of these 6 guys are going to take a little discount because they really like it there, it would be him. That he actually really does like it in Colorado.
Okay.
And whether or not he stays there or not, you just want to. This is the time to go. You just want to Stanley Cup. I mean, things are pretty good right now.
He'll be the last one to get a deal. That's for sure. He's last in line.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and the other teams of interest in him: Dallas, Arizona, and again Montreal, which is like this is the third Montreal person, but a Montreal person I was talking to.
I'm getting the whiff here that everybody's going to include Montreal and Ottawa because they have cap space.
No, I mean, well, maybe other people are, but I'm basing it on who I talked to. So I'm basing it on like the person in Montreal who I talked to. So I think that
I'm not saying that what you're reporting.
Oh, I know. I do think that Montreal is often put into rumors. Toronto and other teams. It keeps things going. It causes a buzz, and But I purposely almost go the opposite direction on that because of that, because I've been so used to that idea. Like I hate putting Montreal and Toronto rumors, because every time I do, I know people are going to say, "Oh, everybody puts Montreal and Toronto rumors." So I have to make sure I have it from somebody before I do it. And this one I have it from somebody. So, but again, I really have it on I have more of a feeling that he's going to take a discount and stay. I think that's really, if I would say of the 6 guys, I would say Nichushkin's most likely to stay, and he might be second or third likely to stay. Next up, Darcy Kemper, and it's a bit of a tough call because of what's going on, but he did win them a Stanley Cup, and he was especially good during the final couple games.
I don't see how you can move on from him, because just the change might be bad.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think you
2 years
stay with him, and like we talked about at length yesterday, there's not another goalie out there that's going to be a guarantee to keep you a contender. So,
oh, you mean at length? Like we talked like 45 minutes after the show.
After the show, but we've talked. You guys have all heard us talk about it plenty of times before. So, unless they're going to go after Campbell in Colorado, Kemper is the only one who's actually won something.
Campbell's not an improvement over Kemper.
I think he is, but that's a debate we can have for another day,
right?
Or another couple days or a couple hours or whatever. But I think that Kemper, they really this is a possibility that if for some reason his agent goes nuts and they say we want to get more money, then they should be able to get Kemper for a good value here. And if they can't get Kemper for a good value,
what are you calling a good value? $5 million?
$5 million,
yeah.
Right. He made 4.1 this year. I would say that if you get him at under 5 or around 5, that on a shorter term deal, like maybe 2 or at the most 3, then they could live with that, because
I love how Mike will pay him 5 with the Avalanche money, but not with the Leafs money for Campbell. He'll pay, because
the Avalanche have more money, Russ. The Avalanche have more money, more.
And he also won a Stanley Cup.
And he won a Stanley Cup.
Okay. But this is a guy who
that make him a Kemper fan. Now we know. That's fine.
If things get out of hand in the negotiation for whatever reason, and everything goes crazy, this is a guy that Toronto would have an eye on, I was told. But I don't think that would be a smart move. I wouldn't give him 5 and not him 5. But
I've not heard interested in Kemper. But maybe
he's the best option besides Campbell that's going to be available. So if he's available, he's out there. We'll see what happens there as far as that goes. But
that's fair.
Lehkonen, or Terry Lehkonen.
Now he's an
RFA, right? But because of all the cap crunch that this team is going to go through, and because of the fact that they have some serious people they have other guys besides these 6 that they have to sign. You think he would stay there? You think he would take less to be there? But he actually has he's a bit of a rising star right now. He's done a couple things that are really interesting in 2 straight playoff runs, right?
Sure, but he doesn't have any leverage.
Yeah, I don't think he's a star. I don't think he's a star, but I think he's a good player.
No, but he could be a rising star, but even if he is, he's got no leverage.
I think what he's going to do is he's going to he'll negotiate a 1-year deal. He'll sign the 1-year deal, and then they can give him a little more money this year because McKinnon's extension doesn't kick in, and then he goes UFA next year.
And they obviously like him. So Josh Manson is the last of this big 6, and then we'll get into there's more players too that we talk about. But Josh Manson, I mean, when you look at whenever we talk about trade deadlines and whether or not they help you win Stanley Cups, this year's trade deadline definitely helped Colorado win a Stanley Cup, and it's not often we can say that,
and it helped Tampa Bay too.
But it's also there's another thing here too. There's another component. Yeah. It's also other GMs that help too. David Poile gave him Sam Girard. Lou Lamoriello gave him Devin Taves. By giving them those 2 and then getting Cale Makar, that gave them the best fastest defensive core, most mobile defensive core in the league.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
McClellan gave them Andre Burakovsky because they had cap issues. So
Joe Sakic, we have to at least say this. He's won almost every trade he's made.
Yeah, he really has. I mean, even like the Duchesne trade, going back to that, I would say he won that trade.
Yeah, the Ryan O'Reilly deal with Buffalo. The Comfer comes from that.
He's made outstanding moves. I mean, he and Yzerman. It's funny how I always compared them to each other when they played. Like as far as who was better, Sakic or Yzerman, it was always like a thing in my head. At least.
Yeah, right now Sakic's a little head as a GM.
Sakic's a little head, but they're both 2 of the best. So
Russ and I were talking before you came on, about Eric Johnson, because Eric Johnson's got a year left at $6 million, and he might retire because he's been in the league a long time, and he's not a $6 million player anymore. So could they find if he doesn't want to retire, could they find a way to bring him back? And what I said was remember the Brooks Orpik situation in Washington? They traded him to Colorado. Colorado bought him out, and then they signed him for league minimum. If they wanted to do that, they might be able to find a taker on that. But otherwise, I think they need the money that Eric Johnson's making, and they might buy him out, or they might ask him if he retired, or might ask him to retire.
Yeah, I will get to him in a second. Let's finish Josh Manson.
Well, that's why I was tying it into Manson, because
no, I get that.
If they get Johnson off the payroll, then I think they can bring Manson back.
What I've been told about Manson is he wants to go back to Southern California, and
I can see that.
That this was pretty clear even from the time they made the trade.
Right.
Most likely back to the Ducks, but possibly to the Kings. He definitely wants to be there. And
the Kings need help on defense. So
both teams have a need for him. So it's because remember, the Ducks have lost. They lost another big defenseman this year, so they have a lot of situations where the Ducks need to get. And I think Manson, did his thing and he won and everything, but he really is a Southern California guy.
I mean, the Ducks are in a 2 to 3 year rebuild. So if he goes back there, he knows that he's not. He's got his cup ring, and if he loves Southern California, then it makes a lot of sense.
I mean, he still has his place, his family's still there. It's all it's simple to do. And so now moving on to the other guys we talked about, other UFAs. Before we even get into the guys that have a 1 year away, like Eric Johnson and Bo Byron, JD Compher and McKinnon obviously are 1 year away from deals. But we should talk about the other UFAs. There's like Jack Johnson, for example, is another UFA who's also
somebody will sign him, but again, 1 year, $1 million, that's it.
I think he's likely to resign in Colorado for less, is what I was told.
Yeah.
Because he likes it there. They liked him enough. It was a fit. Cogliano is a really interesting one too. Another UFA who really
he could retire.
He could retire, but he really got a lot of.
I mean, I could see him coming back for $850 because they liked him. And if they're going to give him playing time, I think he'll do it. He's
I
right.
could see him coming back for 850 and transitioning into like an assistant coach in Colorado.
Same with Darren Helm. I mean, Darren Helm still got speed. That's the thing. He's a veteran guy, and he's still got the speed to stay with the pace of this league. So if he didn't want to come back to Colorado, he could find some takers out there.
And then we have Ryan Murray too, right? So
yeah, he's been so injured.
Injured, like you said, he's playing. He's like in the top, might be in the top 4 if he's at his best. So
I know, but I think he's like a 1 year, $2 million guy.
Yeah. But there's another one. So, and then finally, like I said, the guys who they can start negotiating with are McKinnon, Eric Johnson, Bo Byron, and JD Comfer, who are all going into their last year. So
Byron is an interesting one simply because he had that post-concussion and he was really wondering if he's even going to be able to stay in the league.
Yeah.
He seems to be over that now, but you kind of wonder, is Colorado going to give him long-term knowing that he's got the post-concussion thing, or rather, is he going to be one of those guys that will get a 2-year and wait for the cap to go up and make sure that he doesn't have a problem? That I could see that happening.
I think that's a really good bet there. I do. I think that, and I do think that you're going to see this guy. Now, there are questions out there about McKinnon possibly doing a shorter deal and waiting for the cap to go up as well. I've heard that. Not like, I'm not talking like, another deal like he's making now. I'm talking about like an $8 million deal versus a 10, 11. Because if he waits a couple years, he can do an 8-year deal for $12 million, and that's but
the problem here, Ak, is he's what, 20? He's 29. You sign a 2-year deal at $8 million, waiting for the cap to go up, and then when you're 31, you may not be the player that you were when you were 29. And are they going to give him $12 million based on past performance? I don't know if they will.
Yeah, the most he's going to be able to get in this cap world with this team, with all the players that have to 11. Is 11. Yeah, so 12 or 13 if the cap goes up. It changes, a little bit there. I don't know how high it can go, but Eric Johnson, I basically heard that there's a darn good chance he retires straight out.
That makes sense. He'd be ending with a Stanley Cup. That makes the total.
Yeah, and he almost didn't play this year. Like he really.
Yeah, he said that. I saw the interview.
Oh, you saw that? Okay, yeah, I didn't know if he said that, but I had heard that too.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't remember how many years after the golf cart incident that St. Louis just kind of decided he wasn't going to be the guy that we drafted. But man, he has managed to still have a really good career.
Yeah, he really has, and especially like the rebirth he had in Colorado, just in general, was astonishing. He was basically left by the side of the road by the Blues. It felt like, and the Blues, the Blues would love to have him back. It's like they would love to have him back this year.
He missed an entire year, and that was when he was 19, 20 years old. So
with the golf cart
the golf cart incident was a year and a half after he got traded to Colorado. So he's been in Colorado since 2010. So he's been there for 12. He's been there for 12 years.
It's a long time.
Yeah. Right. So he's had a pretty good career, not the career that a former number 1 overall pick you'd think would have. But
let me bring up the rumor chart for a second, and then we'll end with that. A couple little things from there. Here we go. Alrighty. Share. Okay. Johnny Gaudreau. Still picking up momentum on re-signing in Calgary. Lately, the Devils have made it known they're going to go super high in on him, so it's hard to imagine.
I can see that.
If the Flyers are going to make a splash, this is where they make a splash, not with Kadri.
They'll definitely put an offer out because they want at least a shot at him and to show the fans that they are taking a shot at him. I believe that. Yeah.
So this would be. And it's possible that he does want to come to Philadelphia. That is definitely.
Yeah, there's always a chance.
So they have a shot there. I think so they are, and then I continue to hear Florida. That would be obviously if Giroux goes someplace else. And I don't know how Florida makes that happen with Huberdeau next year, but there's a bunch of different, I don't have any idea how, but I know that they are talking to that in that world as well. No one's talking to anybody yet, of course, but they're talking about that world as well. To bring Cat, the island, this is an island. This is where the Islanders, we're talking about the Islanders before. This is where the Islanders are looking. And whether or not they can get this done or not, I don't know. Whether or not Chicago's serious about moving to Ringcat, I don't really know.
Well, you would suspect that if they are, that they want to get 2 or 3 players that are young and cheap. And if that's the case, then you're talking Wallstrom, you're talking, Kiefer Bellows. I don't think you're talking Dobson, because why would they trade him? But I mean, I don't know. I don't know if the Islanders have enough in terms of young talent to give up for DeBrincat.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
DeBrincat doesn't seem like a Lou guy. I'll be honest, it doesn't.
Yeah.
He's a sniper. I mean, he's very Brian Giannis.
Yeah, but Lou likes the Brock Nelson types more than he likes the DeBrincat types.
Yeah, but he did have Brian Gianta in New Jersey, and that's sort of what DeBrincat is.
Gianta was tougher than DeBrincat. DeBrincat's not a tough guy.
No, he's a scorer. Yeah,
for sure. Nick Paul. He's a really interesting one because
Nick Paul is a weird one because
like
people around the league know what Nick Paul is.
Yeah.
But yet he did have some goals in the playoffs that made you say,
Okay, here's the open question. What if you're in free agency? What are you spending on Nick Paul? Are you spending more on Nick Paul or Andrew Copp?
Andrew Copp.
Yeah, because he's more accomplished. But
I would definitely go with Andrew Copp.
They're similar type players.
I think Nick Paul was the perfect example of a player being put in the absolute best position they could be put into. He was the situation that he had there where he had no pressure really to be the guy in Tampa and was just able to come in and be the extra third, fourth liner type guy that's what he did. And he got some
surprising goals. He did.
Yeah, he did it really well. And finally,
Jake is right. Nick Paul is a Lou kind of guy.
He is a Lou kind of guy. I have not heard the Islanders. I will look into that as a possibility, but Calgary really likes him. And I don't know if he's from that area or not. I was just told that they really.
So they'll lose Gaudreau and they'll replace him with Nick Paul.
Well, yeah, not really replacing him, obviously, but with the money you have, you got to get some depth in Calgary, and because you're not gonna be able to get a superstar of Gaudreau's level, so you want to get 2 or 3 players that can help there. So I don't know that Arizona and Detroit also.
Here's the drum roll for the trade rumor, because I see William Nylander on the list here.
Yes, the drum roll for the trade rumor. Nylander's name all over the friggin' NHL right now.
Shocking.
You can't talk to anybody without somebody saying, "Oh, I heard Nylander." And with only 10% of Toronto, that is a huge number for me to give. For me to put on the rumor chart for Nylander, because I never do that unless I think
they've finally come around to my.
Well, I'm finally being told, but it's not even a matter of my opinion so much as I'm finally being told that that they are going to move him, or at least going to do everything they can to move him.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're going to try.
Yeah, but here's the trade rumor involves Nylander going to.
They're not going to move him unless they get value for him, Russ.
Right.
They will get value for him because he's coming off an 80-point season where he scored 35 goals.
Yes, and here's the interesting thing.
Okay.
The rumor would involve. Let me look at exactly what it would involve before I say this right, because I don't.
Well, I see the 25% increase for the LA Kings.
Right, it's obviously a Kings thing, and shoot, I just blacked out for a second.
Which I've been saying for a while, because the Kings have what the Leafs are looking for in terms of, if you're talking about high end, inexpensive prospects that are on the cusp,
right,
of being, in the NHL. And I'm not saying Byfield, but I'm going to include Byfield, Kupari, Turcotte, Kaliev. You can go down the line. They've got a ton of young prospects. And if the Leafs are going out there to make another deal to bring in somebody else, they need to clear the cap space. And if they get young players in a deal for Nylander, then they are successful in both functions, getting cheaper and younger, and then adding a player, either a free agent or in a trade someplace else.
Right. And you're along the right, these all the young guys you said there, somebody young will be involved, but the big kind of surprise in this is that Jonathan Quick would be in this deal. And that is what kind of surprised me. We talked yesterday about, we after the show in our mega conference talking for 45 minutes how like Jonathan Quick would not be traded. We didn't think Jonathan Quick was going to be traded, everything like that.
I'll tell you this. I spoke to a Kings insider and they're not happy with their backup goalie. So that would surprise me if Quick goes. Yeah,
there is a huge divide on their backup goalie. I'll say that. Like I wouldn't go as far as
Peterson did not have as good. I mean, Peterson had better years the previous 2 seasons than
Correct.
he did.
And now there's some questioning.
But they seemed, what I heard, Russ, is they seemed to think that Peterson sort of sulked because he thought he was going to be the starter last year.
Yeah, there was definitely an attitude.
I didn't hear that. All I heard was there's people in that organization that still want to keep Quick and don't want Peterson to be the number one.
Right now they have $11 million tied up in goalies.
Yes.
Between these two, between Peterson and Quick.
The only thing I would hesitate with, Eck, is that Quick had a bounce back year last year, and we saw how this organization approached a longtime player in Dustin Brown. They didn't trade Dustin Brown after his sort of bounce back year, and they let him stay around for the last year of his contract and then retire. They're very selective. They didn't do that with Jeff Carter. They didn't do that with Toffoli or Tanner Pearson or those guys, but they did do it with Dustin Brown. And Quick sort of leans more in that Brown category of
he's a freaking legend there, and he would have to agree to do this. I mean, they would have to go to him, and he'd have to say, "Okay, I want this,"
even though he has no trade protection.
Right, even though he has no. I mean, I think that they have the respect.
Right.
The respect they have for him is that of the line. They might as well have a no trade clause. And I think that this would be a matter of Quick just saying, it's basically this is them saying, listen, if really Peterson, if the people who like Peterson win out, which they might not, because Russ is right, there are people who don't like him there, but the people who like Peterson win out, then you kind of have to go to Quick and say, because you can't keep both of them at $11 million. It's like that makes no sense at all, right? So they have to go Quick and say, let's send Quick someplace where he could possibly win again. Let's send him to the East because we don't want to deal with him in the West. Toronto is screwing around with Campbell. It makes sense that this is a place and Nylander. You're trading Nylander for something that actually is significant and not long-term financially.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility.
Well, you have to get a lot more than Quick, because Quick is a 1 year, and then he could retire. You would
get more, but when it comes to a lot more, I don't think you would be happy with how much more. I don't think the Leaf fans will be happy with how much more. But I think
Then I don't think it's going to happen next, because they're not going to give Nylander away for a 37-year-old goaltender with 1 year left in the contract.
The problem is that Nylander is viewed a lot differently around the league than he is by Toronto fans. Like Nylander is. Listen, I came on last year in the beginning of the year, and if you watch Nylander play in one of his best games, you're going to sit there and say, this guy's amazing. He's got every possibility, but he's like a Kovalev. I keep saying, he feels like
you still got value for Alex Kovalev. He's a scorer.
But Kovalev, there were teams that were afraid of him. There are teams that are afraid of Nylander, and that makes his value less than it should be, because Dumbus has done nothing to help that either. By the stuff he said about him. So it's like he's very much viewed as an inconsistent player, and although he's got value, although he's a scorer, people know that Toronto has to have to trade him too. There's a lot of things that. So if Toronto's going to get back something to actually make themselves a contender right away, this might be one of the best things they could do. Yeah, I mean, because Quick makes them a contender right away.
They get a goalie.
They get their goalie. They get a guy who's won Stanley Cups. They get a guy who plays really well in frantic type systems.
Unless they're getting a top prospect in that deal, then I don't think that flies. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, it's a very good debate to have for sure, and you can definitely make your point on that. I just don't know we're gonna have to see what Nylander eventually gets. We're gonna have to see what that return eventually is.
I mean, I honestly think there's I honestly think there's a better chance that Cal Peterson gets traded in that deal rather than Quick. Because Cal Peterson is young, he's shown that he's had some ability. He's locked up. His price point is etched in stone for I think 2 more years, maybe 3. But it's not now you can have the debate of whether you think Cal Peterson is better than Jack Campbell. I would, in that instance, I would lean toward Campbell in the sense that Campbell has at least proved in Toronto that he can handle Toronto. I don't know if Cal Peterson has.
At this point, Campbell's better than Peterson, but Peterson could be better than Campbell eventually.
Right.
And
3 years.
Yeah, maybe. Remember Peterson going into last year, the Kings loved him.
Yeah.
They absolutely loved him,
We had a less than 900 save percentage. He, Quick.
Yeah, but he struggled mightily, and
and
Quick saved him. But that doesn't mean that he can't bounce back, or that he still is obviously a talented goalie. So me, that's I don't know. It's we'll have to see what ends up happening with Nylander in the long run. What he's really worth to people. But this is one option, and I'm continually, because I know, like Mike, you have this opinion on Campbell we've talked about. I think your opinion. I think your opinion.
It wasn't.
What was that?
It wasn't Cal Dubas.
It wasn't Cal Dubas.
It wasn't Cal Dubas. I do think that Mike's opinion is based on what the Maple Leafs feel too. Like I think you're in the ballpark, and why I think Russ and I are arguing so much is we both don't want the Leafs to do that to themselves. Like we feel like they're going down a path that they, and I don't think that Mike's crazy. I think that Mike's opinion is reflecting what Toronto is doing. And if this is the case that you're not willing to give Campbell, I will forgive them a little bit if they've got a plan. Like if this is their plan, if they have a little bit of okay, you can go if your plan is to get Jonathan Quick. Yeah. It's a little easier. It's a little easier to swallow.
I got to run.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
I do believe that the Leafs have a plan if the plan is to hold fast on the price point on Campbell.
Yeah, there must be a plan. So this might be
what it is. I don't know, but I do believe they have a plan.
I mean, there are rumors today coming out that the Devils are trying to trade for Campbell's rights. I've heard about that a couple times now already. I think the Oilers are also going to get in that game but what I've also heard.
And that makes sense because Toronto has only 3 draft picks in this draft. So if a team offers them a 3rd or a 4th round pick or something like that to get exclusive negotiating rights, then I think
it's better than losing them for nothing. I agree with that. For sure. I think that from what I've heard, though, that they are still trying to sign Campbell. And I talked again this morning to somebody about this because just to see where this is at. And, there's a lot of talk. No, we're not going anywhere. And there's a lot of negotiation stuff going. There's a lot of negotiation in the press happening where they're saying, oh, we're not going anywhere. But the reality is they're still talking. And the reality is if I was a betting man, I still kind of lean towards them getting it done with Campbell. But that we'll see what I'm definitely at the 50-50 mark right now.
Yeah.
More than anything else. But I think they will get done just because of all the reasons we talked about, because there's not really a great option out there that's going to be better. Anyway, that's all the time we have for today, folks. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will be back again tomorrow. We'll get back into our windows opening and closing tomorrow with Kevin, and we will talk to you then. Take care. Have a good day.